Welcome to Evolve to Succeed, the podcast that brings together entrepreneurs, founders, business leaders and experts to talk about their journeys and explore the link between personal and business success. I'm your host, Warren Munson, founder of Evolve, a coaching, training and development company focused on enabling business and personal success and creating a community of like-minded individuals. Whether that be through our peer groups, one-to-one coaching, our training and development programs for you and your teams, or through our content and events, our mission is to get the best out of each individual and inspire them to be better both in life and in business. If you want to learn more about Evolve, including our beautiful co-working space in Ashley Cross in Poole, then please go to evolvemembers.com, where you'll find great content, insights, details of all of our services, and also information on our forthcoming events. For now though, let's get on with the show. I was recently invited by Zets, accountants and business advisors, to appear on their Bang the Drum podcast. Superbly hosted by freelance journalist Emma Sheppard, Bang the Drum focuses on the challenges and triumphs of business and entrepreneurship, and has featured at number 1 in the Apple Management podcast charts. On this episode, I'm joined by Leanne Spencer, bestselling author and expert in corporate wellbeing, and Rachel Harris, director of striveX and founder of Accountant She, to talk about the very important topic of entrepreneurship and mental health. So, as well as contributing to the conversation, I took so much away personally from the insights from Leanne and Rachel, and I hope you do too. With rising costs, economic uncertainty, and recruitment challenges, and many other things, business leaders are under considerable pressure at the moment. It's therefore crucial to have an open discussion about issues such as burnout, positive habits that can encourage better work-life balance, and where also to go for help. So please do enjoy this essential episode.
I'm your host, Emma Sheppard, and I'm joined today by Warren Munson, Asset's managing partner, mental health first aider, and a former champion of GU6 at Dorset Chamber. I'm sure we'll hear about that a bit later. Rachel Harris, director of striveX and founder of Accountant She, and Leanne Spencer, an author and expert in corporate wellbeing. Warren, Rachel, and Leanne, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
In this episode, we'll be talking about the triggers that may cause entrepreneurs to experience spells of poor mental health, some of the signs to look out for, and the type of strategies they can use to improve their mindset and protect their business. Leanne, maybe we can start with you. To what extent do you think we're seeing a crisis in mental health among entrepreneurs right now? Is it too far to say that we are experiencing a crisis?
Well, I think we probably are. I think we're seeing an explosion in mental health challenges across the board, really. I think with entrepreneurs, there's probably some unique set of circumstances. You know, there's the hustle culture that we're being exposed to, encouraged to subscribe to. There's the isolation of being an entrepreneur in some cases, you know, particularly in the startup phase. There's the feeling of having to shoulder the responsibility for a number of different functions, you know, single-handedly. So I think there's a number of challenges. And then, of course, there's the drive that sits behind many entrepreneurs that's slightly unique to entrepreneurs, you know, this desire to fulfill a purpose, launch a product or whatever it may be. So I think we probably are seeing, you know, an increase in reported mental health challenges. I think what probably sits under a lot of that is this desire to perform at high levels all year round, which is something I'm sure we'll get into as the episode unfolds. You know, and it simply isn't sustainable. And I think one thing that we can introduce is this idea of creating a little more cadence to the way we approach work, performance, goal achieving, goal setting, and all these different kinds of things. But ultimately, you know, if we can encourage an entrepreneur to think that we don't have to go flat out all the time, that will certainly help. And obviously, mental health is a huge term. Burnout and stress is an aspect of it. But I think if we start to talk around that, which we will do, of course, in this episode, that's one way to reducing those instances of poor mental health.
I think that's really insightful. And I was going to ask you about triggers that might sort of spark periods of poor mental health. You mentioned a couple there, kind of this push to launch a new product perhaps, or I don't know, open a new outlet, a new arm to your business, expand your service offering. Are there some commonalities that you see?
In the challenges that entrepreneurs are facing?
I suppose those triggers that might spark things like burnout or stress.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of commonalities. I mean, if you think about an entrepreneur, the type of personality that they may be, it could perhaps be argued that they are more open to the risk of things like stress and burnout because they may not be as alert to the triggers, the little signs the body sends that indicate we're pushing a bit too hard, too fast. We may have this ability to override all of that and just keep on going. And in some cases, that's how an entrepreneur becomes successful.
Yes.
They're first to market, or they find a new way of approaching a problem or solution.
Yes.
So it's a great skill, but I think we need to introduce the lens of, perhaps there's a cleverer way of doing this that you still get the same results. And, as we'll come to talk about, athletes know this. They know that the goals, the performance, the gold medals and whatever it might be, are achieved through a period of training and then adaptation.
Yes.
And I definitely think that model could be taken into the world of entrepreneurship. Hard work's great, but it's the sleep, the little what I call slivers of recovery.
Oh, I like
slivers that will help them to achieve that goal and maintain good health. Because what's it all for otherwise?
Of course. And Warren, you're nodding. Is that something that you've experienced as well? And is this something that you think small business founders overlook?
Yeah, I think they do. I think because I think Leanne very eloquently put it. I think that piece, particularly around the drive to succeed, and particularly also in the early years of business, where I think that can be the most challenging, because in those times you have this image of what success may be, and it might be social media hustle driven, and that's not true success. And it's only sometimes when you've been in business for a period of time that you understand yourself, you really understand why you're doing what you're doing, and you understand how to get that equilibrium between better mental health, better performance, better results for the business, and all of those things. So I think, definitely there is, a concern and an issue, but I think it's always been there. I think it's great that things like this podcast are happening and we're out there and we're talking about it, because I think for so many years there was this pump the chest, alpha male, alpha female approach to business, and actually that didn't help anybody. And I think the fact that we can have these conversations, it is the right thing, and it's the thing that we should be doing. And hopefully that just raises awareness of individuals and what they can do to help themselves on their journey.
Definitely. And it's so different, isn't it, to being an employee? You can't really switch off 100% when you're a small business owner. There's always something that needs doing, so you actually probably do have to be quite strict with yourself between, I'm going to have some time off now.
Definitely. It's 24/7.
Yeah, of course. Rachel, I'm sure that's something that you can relate to. You've been running your company for almost 3 years.
Yeah, I have. I in terms of the not being able to turn off, I own one of the UK's fastest scaling accountancy practices, and I actually run the business with my husband. So we're life partners and business partners. And I would say it definitely doubles the good and halves the bad. But in terms of that work-life balance, it almost gets even harder.
Yes, I can definitely see that. What do you think the biggest stresses have been for your own mental health?
Oh, good question. I mean, even as someone who speaks to so many entrepreneurs and business owners, I would definitely say that even if I was speaking to somebody as a prospective client, most people, even when they're speaking to just me as an accountant, mention a feeling or an emotion long before they ever mention a number to me on a call. And so the openness to share those things is so at the surface. And I think so much of it does come from finances. For a lot of small business owners, like, we're British, we can't, speaking about money generally feels very, very uncomfortable. And so we do see so many people sort of come to us to be that sounding board for them as well. I'd say, in terms of me having a team and having the team scale. So we've gone from it, being a one-man band at our dining room table 3 years ago to now being a team of 15 with 700 clients in 3 years. And I think if I could give myself some advice 3 years ago, it would be that don't expect hiring a team to solve your problems immediately. No. Very often it gets harder before it gets easier. And I think that's something that a lot of people relate to. And having a team, it's a champagne problem, but it does bring with it more problems. And actually they're sometimes bigger headspace problems.
Yes.
So with a team of 15, if one person has one problem once a year, that's actually still more problems than months that I have, to look after them as individuals as well.
Yeah, of course, it's a totally different skill set, isn't it? Leanne, you're nodding. Is this something that you see with others as well?
It is, yeah. And I'm just sort of wryly smiling as well, because it's certainly something I've experienced. We're a team of 5 now. We've been up to 8. So it's a relatively small business. But yeah, I mean, I've certainly found with hiring team often, and there may be a number of things attributed to that, my lack of due diligence, or, not asking the right questions in the hiring process, or great, you can do it, here, let's go. I think having a team isn't necessarily the solution, or it certainly can raise more issues. So I was just sort of agreeing with that. Something else that I was thinking about, and bring me back in if this is distracting, is that we very much focus on financial goals. And one thing that I've changed about myself, well, a whole host of things, but that's a series in itself, but it is moving away from a pure focus on revenue. Of course, pound, shilling and pence drive a business. There's no getting away from that. You have to be closing the sales and managing the costs and everything else. But increasingly, I've turned my focus, and this is relevant, I think, to mental health, to the purpose of the business, of which there's much spoken about at the moment, but the value we may be giving back to a community or a subset of a community or chosen charities. And having some of those things be part of the North Star of the business. It's got to make money, sure, but what else are we here for? And I do think that money and the pursuit of it sits at the root of an awful lot of the evil in the world, not to go down that route. And then when I come back and I say, well, we've got a monthly target and we need to reduce this, and, here's my fee, and I'm not going, but et cetera, it's just still going on about money. So my attention's now drawn to, what is it all for? What can I do with this? How much do I need? I don't need more than that. So that's helped with my mental health personally. And I think, to bring it back to this conversation, if as entrepreneurs we also thought, and some are, what's this all for? Okay, it's for making money. What's that for?
Yes.
That would help, I think, to create some balance.
And I think it's so true. And I think when I'm sat down with a client, or even a friend that's in business, the question I constantly ask is, what does good look like?
Yes.
Yeah.
And good looks like when you really get into that conversation with a business owner, it comes to be meaning so much more than the money. The money might be the first answer, but it's like peeling an onion, and you start to probe and test and get the responses. And so one of those questions I'd ask any sort of business owner listening to this podcast to answer is, what does good look like for them? And absolutely, it's got to have a balance between personal and business success. And I reflect on my own journey of building, the business that we sold to Azets. And I look back and I think the times when the business was, I would have given the business a score of 10 out of 10. I was probably on the floor personally. And the times when it felt right, I'd have probably scored both personal and business 7. Because when personal was really high, I was probably neglecting the business a little bit. And it's about trying to get that equilibrium of, the things that are important to your life and spending time on those.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense.
I mentioned hustle culture. There's a lot in culture that suggests business culture, that some is great, more is better. Those numbers look brilliant, but we could probably double those, or we could halve these costs. And that's fine and well. But isn't that a bit of a hiding to nothing? Because if more there could always be potentially more sales, but you keep going down that route and your own personal sustainability is going to become degraded. And I think if you can harness some of your personal aspirations and ambitions, not in a business sense, but in terms of the broader purpose of what you want to do to the business, then you're onto a bit of a winner. Because yes, it provides you with revenue, but it could also be, was it the GU? It could potentially be something that helps with that. And just things that aren't monetarily related, because you can always go chasing more money.
Yes.
But where does that end?
Definitely. Rachel, does this ring a bell with you? Are those sort of personal ambitions something you've been able to bring into your business as it's grown?
Oh, yeah, 100%. So we call it a North Star. And I definitely feel like in 2023 for business owners and for entrepreneurs, it can feel like, especially when you operate in an online space. So we have a community of 30,000 people, and my DMs are full of people coming to ask me to record podcasts or come and speak to membership communities. And I think a huge part of burnout for a lot of us, or, getting to the point of a breakdown for some of us, is just feeling that need to say yes because you're not sure where money is coming from. And so having a North Star and being really, really clear and defined with it has helped us, huge amounts in our business, understand what to say yes to, what to say no to. And if it's not a yes and it's not a no, it could be a yes, but I'm going to have to charge for that because it's not quite North Star material, but actually cash could help me get closer to my North Star. And so that's something that's changed huge things within our business, because I think so often we just put so much pressure on ourselves to say yes to everything, that actually being really, really clear and defined with what that goal looks like, and it not, having cash associated with it, whether it's a feeling. So James and I as business partners got married last year, and so Operation Wedding Rachel was actually number one. We got married on the 7th of the month, and I said to James, we will not be filing VAT returns on our wedding day. And so for lots of people, a North Star could be a feeling, or it could be a monetary value that could help them in personal avenues of their life as well.
Yes, that's great. Leanne, I wanted to ask you a little bit about stigma. I feel like sometimes for small business founders, they're reluctant to share with their wider team when they are struggling. Perhaps they think it'll be demotivating. And if they don't have a co-founder, you mentioned earlier on in the conversation, being an entrepreneur can be quite a lonely place, particularly if there's no co-founder to kind of, share what they're going through. Do you think there is still a stigma around mental health in the workplace, particularly at that higher level? Or are people starting to be able to share?
I think there is still a stigma. I think what we should be aspiring towards is a conversation where mental health is just completely normalised to the point that we don't even have conversations about it. I mean, that's really how I feel about it. I mean, isn't it, when you boil it down, isn't it completely normal that I'm going to wake up some days, whether I've done a workout or not, and feel a bit tired and achy? Isn't it completely normal I'm going to wake up some days and not fancy it?
Yeah.
Or worse, where you've actually had a period of, I had it myself at the end of last year, a period of feeling really flat, really low. If you'd said to me how things going, and they were going really well, but I go to you, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, liven up, because things are really, things are going great at the minute. But that's how I felt. Now, there was some various, menopause-related hormone stuff that was going on. But isn't it completely normal that we're going to have these ups and downs? And just to emphasise, we are talking about a subset of mental health, of course, which is really stress, perhaps some anxiety, depression, burnout. Huge topics, but I think there is some stigma. I think the more we can get leaders, whether it's leaders of PLCs, leaders of sole traders or whomever, people in business, having normal conversations about, I just really I don't feel great at the moment, or I'm having low mood, and here's what I'm doing with that, the better. I think the very best thing that a leader of a company of any size can do is not put notices on the back of toilet doors saying it's good to talk, but talk about it.
Yes,
say,
lead by example.
Yeah, you can spin it two ways. You could say, look, here's when I felt my lowest and here's what I did. Or you could talk about, as one, I can't remember his name now, but he was at the time running a bank, used to talk about the positive things that he did to maintain good mental health. I cycle to work, and one of the reasons why is it gives me really great mood and energy when I get in. I love the fact that movement buys me those two valuable commodities, movement, mood and energy. So we can talk about things that we do positively to maintain equilibrium, or even better, to boost energy, mood, motivation. Yeah. There is still a stigma, but we need to increase it. We need to just normalise these conversations, and then perhaps we won't even need to have them at all.
And we're all used to talking about our physical health, the exercise that we do. But we've got to get to the place, and we're not there yet. But hopefully we're on that journey where we talk about our mental health in the same way we do our physical health. It should be everyday conversations. Yeah.
And Warren, I suppose if someone is having a particularly tricky period of poor mental health, maybe, as Leanne said, they feel a bit flat, they're really not in the game, they feel like they're just going through the motions. Why is that important to address? What can that do to a business, I suppose, if that continues for a long period of time?
Well, I think, the business owner is the leader of any organisation. And, how you show up as a leader within your office, within your environment, within your business, will reflect on performance within the business. And it will reflect on motivation, staff retention, and all of those kind of things. And I think ultimately, and again, I've been on this journey myself, is if you ignore it for too long, you start to make poor decisions. Because the rationality of decision making disappears. You lose that kind of perspective.
Yes.
And ultimately, as I come back to, even if you've got co-founders, you are one of the leaders within the organisation, and it's really important to be there, to be able to show up. And when you don't, not only is that detrimental to your own health, the risk of burnout, the risk of, serious stress and depression, that will have a negative effect on the business. And businesses do fail because the business owners aren't addressing their mental health. They're not in the right place. They're not in the right rhythm. And, they set themselves these goals and objectives. But if you're not in the right place to perform as a business owner, business leader, then you're not going to achieve your full potential. And I suppose it comes back a little bit to that reference that was made earlier in the conversation about athletes.
Yes.
Athletes, will make sure their physical health and their mental health is in the right place to enable them to perform.
But I always talk about Serena Williams. She's evolving out of tennis, but still a great example, one of the most decorated athletes of our times. If you think about the French is being played at the moment. Wimbledon is the big UK Grand Slam. If you think about Serena Williams, she won't expect to be Grand Slam fit all year round. What an athlete appreciates more than anyone else on earth probably is that the performance comes as a result of training and then recovery. And I think as business athletes, if you can think of ourselves like that, we could learn a lot from that. I've got I could talk about it if you like, an approach that when I speak at events, it's what I talk about, and encouraging people. I think, to backtrack, I think business is an endurance sport with occasional sprints.
Yes.
Or your listeners might be, business is an endurance sport with frequent sprints. Or maybe someone is sitting back wherever they are thinking, well, every day feels like a Wimbledon to me. I've always got these big events. Every day feels important. But wouldn't it be great if we saw ourselves as business athletes? And the cadence approach is basically predicting, let's look ahead to some of the predictable events within the business, quarterly sales results, product launch, software release, whatever it is. Personally, it's just as important. New child coming into the family, a baby, maybe a child going to a neuro specialist school.
A wedding,
exactly. House move, those sort of things. Big events. Wouldn't it be great if as a family, whatever that family looks like, we just got ready for that? A second phase is prepare, small changes, big impact. Little tweaks that you can make to maybe your sleep routine. But I do emphasize small changes that have a big impact. Maybe a little tweak in the way that you recover or whatever it may be, the way you keep energized. Perform is about respecting your red flags. Make sure you're not hurtling towards a goal, whether it's personal or professional, and ignore the little telltale signs the body sends. And then recover is this notion that backing off beats burnout, what I call slivers of recovery. Sliver, you think of sliver of cheese at a dinner party or sliver of cake.
Big chunk, actually.
But a tiny little sliver. So just, maybe leaving studio today, we might just stand in the sun for 10 minutes, absorb the sun's rays, move on, or 2 minutes of breath work, or daydream, looking down the street, whatever it might be, before going on your way. That's the idea of the cadence approach. And I think almost anybody really, any busy professional could benefit from that. We tend to think we have to perform at a high level all year round. Well, we can majority perform, but the way that we'll be successful and keep burnout at bay is by anticipating those events, getting ready, getting them done, but those crucial bits of recovery. And that works just as well if you can't predict what's coming up either. Slivers of recovery.
Yeah.
To keep in balance.
I love that. And it seems like a much more proactive approach rather than a reactive approach.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If you've got daily non-negotiables, which are comprised of slivers of recovery. So maybe a daily breathwork session, something like that, or in between calls, I spend 2 minutes just looking out the window and daydreaming. That's how you'll help to keep on more of an even keel.
Fantastic. Well, let's take a break. And after the break, we'll continue our discussion about mental health, particularly the signs leaders should look out for, what help is available, and the need to embrace failure and alleviate that pressure of being 100% on all the time, which I think we've started to cover already. Join us after the break.
Good morning. One of those days again, right? Stressed out by all those time-consuming daily routines? And then there is payroll. All those new regulations, all the time you have to spend learning how they affect your business in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland. Lots of effort, lots of frustrations, and lots of hours wasted on complex payroll administration. Imagine if payroll was effortless and seized a lot less of your precious time. How about this? Maybe you should take a little break. There are experts out there who understand all about your payroll challenges and how to deal with them. Here at Assets, we live and breathe payroll. We know everything about the complex regulations and how to make your payroll a lot more efficient. Backed by our experts in modern IT solutions, you don't have to worry about your payroll anymore. We can take care of any payroll-related task. Now, how about that break? Allow yourself to spend time on creating more business and leave the time-consuming payroll administration to us. Getting the right expertise and people is difficult. Assets provides both. Want to know how? Contact us.
Welcome back. I'm here with Warren, Rachel and Leanne. Thank you all for staying with us. Leanne, maybe let's begin this half by talking about leaders with good mental health. What does that look like and what are the benefits of business? I'm thinking about things like being able to strategize, being able to take a long-term view. Let's sort of set the picture as to what good looks like.
Well, I first would say I think good looks like, it isn't constantly good or in a sort of upward linear, getting better and better and better. I think everyone will have their ups and downs to different degrees. But I think when people have positive mental health, I think ultimately creativity, productivity, performance all benefit from that. Your ability to communicate well, to influence in sort of overt and covert ways is obviously going to be enhanced. I do think it's important to talk about what contributes to that positive mental health. The conversation around mental health is often from a negative. Instances of burnout, percentage of entrepreneurs who are struggling. Let's talk about it in a positive sense. And you said it earlier, Emma, preventative. And I'm a big fan of preventative health strategies. I think what a lot of companies do is they have all these things in place to retrieve the horse once it's bolted.
Right. Let's stop it getting out in the first place.
The horse has gone, right? We've got Yale locks all the way up the barn door and security cameras when it hoses back into view. But, what about, and I hate to think of people as horses bolting from stables, so we'll drop that. But how about preventative health strategies? And that some of that is the role modelling of leaders. It's conversations around this. It's the normalising of mental health. It's also, getting down into some of the detail, thinking about the environment, the culture. So environment, I'm thinking, are you having people in, we're in a windowless box right now, but it's not for long and we're here for a purpose. But, were you asking people to come into office blocks where there's environmental pollution and there's not a lot of natural light? So looking at those sort of, it's very detailed, but looking at all of those kind of things. Understanding what makes a healthy human being. Well, it's light exposure, it's movement, it's connection to meaningful work, purpose, values, other people. So creating an environment which promotes those things. So I got slightly diverted, but I think as a leader, if you've got good mental health, let's understand why that is. What are some of the things that we can take from that and apply to the business or share with others? Yeah. But definitely looking at things from a preventative health standpoint is the way I think.
Yeah, I think that's great. And Warren, what are some of the signs that you think small business founders can look out for when it looks like their mental health is beginning to suffer? I know for myself, I stopped sleeping, and you're not getting that rest anyway, which doesn't really help.
At that point, it can spiral, can't it? With lack of sleep, and that is obviously a key sign, but I suppose there's a lot of business owners that will, struggle with sleep and lay there in the night, worried, concerned, thinking about what's happening next. But some of the other kind of signs that I think will be, a lack of motivation. I think we started the conversation about business owners, business leaders being driven. And I think, one of the warning signs, if that drive seems to be dissipating and disappearing, that lack of motivation. I think also that ability to, and it's not an ability, but you become numb to emotions. And I think that is a strong trigger or strong sign in a lot of people that actually where they're at now is they're just going through the motions. Yeah. And then, that inability, again, I'm possibly talking personally here, but I do see it in other business leaders, that inability to be present in the moment. I think for me, good mental health means that, if I'm with my kids, I'm spending time with them, enjoying their time. If I'm out on my bike, which is what I do for my own kind of well-being, then I'm really enjoying that. And if I'm at work, I'm focused and attentive. But I know things are slightly quirky or slightly offbeat if I'm not able to be present when I'm doing one of those things. If you're always checking your phone, if you're always worried. So there, for me, might be some of the signs that founders, business owners need to look out for.
Yeah, I think you've got a high level of self-awareness, but I think a lot of people in general we've become very good at ignoring the signs the body sends, but it sends them.
Yes. Yeah.
And it keeps the score. They don't sort of, you haven't got these red flags and like, oh, he's not listening. Oh, forget it. The body will keep the score. And eventually some of the sort of mental health signals can manifest as physical symptoms.
Yes.
Low back pain, unexplained aches and pains, headaches, etc. I think we just become really good at ignoring those signs and motoring on. And depending on who we follow and what kind of media we're exposed to, there's a whole culture, as I mentioned earlier, that fuels this. Look, you've got to keep working. You've got to be relentless. You've got to just keep on going, and eventually you'll get there. And I don't think that's the case. I think we've got to listen to those little signals and pay attention.
Definitely. And if we don't, we ignore them, then you do end up in that place where you find other coping mechanisms.
Yes, like alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of which are just
self-harming, doing things that are actually more detrimental to both your physical and mental health.
Rachel, what coping mechanisms do you have to keep yourself healthy when things become overwhelming? Warren mentioned his bike there. Are you also into cycling?
I'm actually completely teetotal. I've been completely alcohol-free for about 5 years now and self-employed for 3. And I definitely attribute, quite a lot of the momentum and consistency, which in my mind, consistency is far more important than talent in being a business owner. And so, yeah, for me, sobriety has brought huge amounts of stability and wellness into my business, and then also huge amounts of routine. So I do something called monk mode every single day, which is where from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. I spend 2 hours in complete silence working on my business, not in my business. And so 2 hours every single day are dedicated to clearing my inbox, putting together a schedule for the day, making sure that by the time my team get into the office, I am completely present and ready to sort of grow my business. And
Great.
So that's 6 till 8. 8 till 9 is yoga, shower, meditation, and then back at work. And for me, having that really fixed morning routine, I'm quite an introverted person. And I think time and control over what my morning looks like actually gives me huge amounts of positivity and like balance into my day, where, sometimes it feels like from 9 a.m. onwards, anything could happen. But it really puts me back in the driver's seat every single morning to sort of understand exactly where I'm at. And so really, really fantastic morning routine has done huge amounts of things for my well-being. And then also just having dedicated time every day to check in with yourself. So I said earlier that I used to have wedding Rachel. On the build up to the wedding, it was how close to wedding Rachel are we feeling? And actually, like whether you have to diarize it or incorporate it into, your morning routine, whether it's that cycle ride to work or the bus to work, just checking in with yourself. I think so often the pace of self-employed life can sort of take you along with it, and really just having time in the diary every day to actually ask yourself, how do I feel today?
Yeah, there's so many things that I love there. I love time. Control, not in a negative sense. Consistency, I'm a huge fan of, and I've been teetotal for 11 years as well. And none of the things that I have, none of them would be around and to go too far down the alcohol route. But without that clarity of thought that comes with sobriety, congratulations on your 5 years.
Oh, thank you.
And to you, that's amazing. I'm feeling very guilty about my glasses of wine in the evening. Warren, I'd love to ask you, you're a mental health first aider. Tell us a bit about that and also the GU6 initiative.
Yeah, so I became a mental health first aider through an initiative by Dorset Chamber, so down on the south coast, the local chamber of commerce to us. And the chair at the time of the chamber, she was very much focused on actually what do we do as a chamber to support the business owners, founders, leaders, and that recognition that we don't talk often enough, as we were saying earlier, about our mental health. And so she put together a series of events, but also developed, and I volunteered because it's something I'm passionate about, to be one of those champions, to actually undertake proper kind of mental health first aid training, and then to be there and to support the community. So that there was, I think, 12 of us recognised as people that had gone through the training. And if you're at an event, you want to talk, these might be 12 people that, could be good to talk to. And I think it's an amazing initiative. I think it's something that, could be replicated around the country and would give that element of support. And I think that whole piece around, and it opened my eyes to, the mental health first aid training is no different really to physical first aid training, in that you're not there to diagnose, you're not there to cure, you're there to enable a conversation to take place and have that individual signpost them to where they can get professional help. And I think, it's something that, Zet supports. I think there's 40 or 50, probably more by now, mental health first aid trainers within a Zets. And I think it's something that, more organisations should do.
Yes. I think I was reading recently that there maybe has been an increase. So I feel like during COVID, there was more of an appreciation for other things that are going on in employees' lives, in particular. That kind of stuff was spoken about more at work. We were working from home. They were more aware of people that had families, perhaps, other pressures that were going on in their working day. We just need to bring it back to leaders, perhaps.
We do, but also within your environment and your business, one of the great things is there's 3 of us trained within our office in Poole as a mental health first aider. And there's one of our tax managers, Helen, and she is so passionate about it, and passionate not in a intrusive way, that we've given her the ability to do what you think you need to do to encourage others to talk, encourage others to, as a group, to go for a walk at lunchtime, do it's those slithers, I think, Leanne, but do the simple things that make a difference. And I think all of us in business, we think about our own mental health, but keeping our own mental health consistent should be done in tandem with how we do that for our teams. Yes,
for sure. And Leanne, if someone's listening to this and thinks, I really do need to reach out for some support, that sounds like a great resource. Perhaps that isn't available to everybody. Are there any other places that entrepreneurs can go to get support?
I think there are a lot of resources. There are podcasts where you can hear really good conversations, such as this. On this topic, and you can, rather than sort of getting the 5 things you can do to improve your mental health, actually hear it brought to life in conversation. I think there's that. I think don't underestimate the power of just speaking to somebody you know or somebody you don't. There'll be someone in your immediate vicinity who is able to help you. You just may not appreciate it. Just a simple conversation. I think connection is such an important aspect of mental health. To some of the things I mentioned earlier, meaningful work, purpose, values to each other, to animals, to nature. So many different things. So just reaching out, having a conversation with someone, reading a book that may offer some support. Spending a bit of time on your own for some people as well, getting out into nature and having a walk. And, the leaves give off chemicals that can improve mood, believe it or not.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So just getting out to nature with or without a dog, if you've got one, having a conversation with someone, moving, if that's available to you, being in natural light. I guess to distill that, it's thinking about what makes a happy, healthy, resilient human being. And it's a few fundamentals that I think we have become very disconnected from. We're much more sedentary, we're in boxes or rooms and so on. So just thinking about what makes a happy, healthy human being, or what makes you a happy, healthy human being, and just doing one of those things straight away, whichever one is easiest to do. Just pick that. If it's standing in the sun, go do that. If it's doing some star jumps to move, go do that.
Yes, I think that's great. And I suppose, perhaps with your local chamber of commerce, or there might be other entrepreneur networks around you, kind of reaching out to others who might be going through similar experiences to you, or even if it's from other sectors. Yeah,
I definitely think being connected with other business owners, other business leaders, we're not all the same in any way, shape or form, but as you run a business, you have a lot of shared experiences, and sharing those experiences and being truly honest about those experiences helps you, but helps others. And I think, there's lots of, peer-to-peer kind of organizations out there. There's lots of, networking groups, but it doesn't need, in my opinion, to always be something as formal as that. Just finding somebody that, perhaps is outside of your normal friendship, family circle, that is a business owner, and having a coffee with them once every couple of weeks, once a month, and having honest conversations with them, because you can, because they're not part of that your inner circle. It can be liberating, and I think it could be as easy as that.
Yes. And I think part of having those honest conversations is understanding that having poor mental health isn't an aberration or abnormal or something that you need to really panic about, but actually the bumpy trajectory of life has us all in positions where things aren't great, or actually they're really terrible, or I'm just a bit flat. It is normal. We got to get away from this trajectory of life being this wonderful sort of linear line upwards to I don't know what, where you never have any worries, which isn't true. It's a bumpy trajectory, and it's perfectly normal to have. But when you have those sort of conversations, you'll realise that we all go through those ups and downs of life.
Yeah.
Not to trivialise, some things you wouldn't call an up and down of life. It'd be more serious than that. But this is a normal pattern, a normal path in life.
Yes, absolutely. Rachel, do you have a wider network that you can kind of tap into? Do you chat to other small business founders?
Yeah, absolutely. So I literally, today is my first day back at work after a workcation, which is where I literally text self-employed friends saying, do you want to just rent an Airbnb together and spend time together? And I think, that was a big push from me to sort of remind myself about why I became self-employed. I think so many of us become self-employed for freedom and flexibility and then chain ourselves to our desk and complain about it.
That's
and
true.
so it was, like a really big push for me to step out of my comfort zone. I have a chronic fear of, asking a team to work really hard whilst being on things like workations, but actually we offer flexible working, and I think I need to be a great role model in doing that. And so just trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, having people that you can ask for help, having things like private medical and employee assistance programs to support your team, even if you're a small business like me. I think lots of misconceptions are that in order to have mental health first aiders, employee assistance programs or private medical, you have to have huge amounts of income or profit or staff. And actually for us, that's our opportunity to drive our values up and down our supply chain, and it gives our customers the ability to do that too. And so our customers would much rather spend money with people that they know as a service-based business. Our whole team are happy and well and safe and looked after. And so, really investing financially in that for the whole team, but obviously benefiting from that myself as well.
Fantastic. A workation. That sounds nice. Where did you go, Rachel?
So I just got home from a week in Lake Windermere with a group of female founders, which blew my brain. I feel like a different person coming back. And we also take our team on a workation every single year. So every September, October, we fly out to Mallorca on an all-inclusive holiday. And it's absolutely fantastic. And it gives us a way to be human around each other, not accountants, which is great. And just really bond and spend time together in a really lovely way. But it does great things for our business.
Great. Well, I think we're coming to an end. I'd love just to finish up with each of your top 3 tips for entrepreneurs looking to improve their mental health. I appreciate that we've had a lovely conversation. It's probably hard to whittle it down to a top 3, but perhaps if someone's reading this thinking, I need to do something, maybe some easy places for them to start. Leanne, can we start with you?
You can, yeah. So I would say daily non-negotiables might just be 1. Could be up to 3, but not more. Mine are a smoothie, steps and sleep. So a minimum sleep target. And so I won't go into the detail of that. Second would be to consider what slivers of recovery you can pepper into your day, whether it's hourly or every 2 hours. And it could be just a minute. But that, I think, is a real key. Thirdly, think about this idea of cadence. I have written a book called Cadence, which pads out the idea considerably. So I point people towards that. It's the only plug I'll be doing in any conversation. And I hadn't planned to. But rather than me going into the whole thing, I did allude to it earlier. Even if you don't buy the book, consider this idea of cadence, which is very simply, don't expect to perform at high level all the time. Introduce those slivers of recovery. Are there moments in business you can anticipate that it'd be great if you got ready for? Get ready for those. So they would be my 3.
Fantastic. Thank you. Warren?
I think I would go with, first off, that piece around understand what good looks like and what your definition of success really is. Because I think, again, too many of us in life get carried away by what we see in the media or on social media, what others say, and actually taking a bit of time out just to reflect on what does good look like for you. And getting some clarity around that would be my starting point.
Because people aren't always honest, are they, when they talk about?
Yeah, people say what you expect others to hear you say.
Yes.
But that, if you're not careful, becomes the reality. And I think that first check-in point with yourself to say, what does good really look like for me is really important. I think, I suppose it echoes this concept of slivers is I actually think, increase your self-care. But I think too many times, we try and do everything at once. So just, the idea of non-negotiables. So is it diet? Is it sleep? Is it exercise? What is it that you could do? You know, is it getting more fresh air? Whatever it could do. But I like that thing about just starting slowly and building. And then I would also say find support in whatever way that works for you. That might be a business support organisation or peer group, or it might be one-to-one. It might be, you know, a life coach. To have those, you know, somebody that you feel you can trust and have those meaningful conversations with. But, you know, my third thing would be find that support that you're going to have around you when, you know, the rhythm of life does get out of balance, because the reality is it does.
Yes, thank you. And Rachel?
Of course, I'm not sure I can quite squeeze 3 without repeating
no problem.
things. But I guess for me, my closing statement would be try not to aim for work-life balance and try and move closer towards work-life rhythm, where some days you give and some days you take. Work-life rhythm has been a lovely concept for me to get to grips with as a young scaling business owner, that, you know, you might not be able to do it every day, but one step closer every day towards rhythm rather than balance. It's not a status that you achieve and then you've unlocked it. It's actually something that's always moving and always changing. So trying to approach it with work-life rhythm rather than balance.
That's great. I love that. Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's been a fascinating conversation, really insightful. And I'm looking forward to listening to it back, because I'm going to be taking some notes and trying out some of these tips myself. So thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Emma.
Oh, thank you.
It's time again for one from Assets, our regular feature where we like to ask one of our Assets advisors to give one piece of advice in 1 minute. So Warren, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Thinking about imposter syndrome, which entrepreneurs can often experience, well, I think we can all often experience, but particularly perhaps if they're from an underrepresented group. I wonder what you think about how they can tackle this and whether there's any support or reassurance that an accountant can provide.
I think the first thing is to recognise that, you know, imposter syndrome is a normal response. As we just said it. We all get it from time to time. It's very rare that you don't. Sometimes, you know, if you're absolutely pushing yourself and you're developing new skills and you're striving to achieve, then, you know, it can kick in harder. And I think it's a recognising when it does. And, you know, some thoughts and tips about how you could overcome that for me would be, you know, first off is assess the evidence, you know, and reflect on the things you do well and you have achieved. And, you know, it's a bit old school, but get a pen and a paper and start making a list of some of those things, because it's really easy when we're suffering from that imposter syndrome feeling is to be comparing ourselves to others and comparing ourselves to, and thinking about the things that aren't going right. So a bit of reflection on that. I think, you know, secondly, I'd say stop comparing yourself to others, because we are all different and we put people up on a mantle. Well, we don't really know them. We don't know whether they are really successful. We don't really know whether they're happy. So stop doing that and get back to, you know, making sure you're doing the things that are important to you. Again, I think, you know, coaching, seeking some coaching and support, if it is something that you struggle with, can be of real benefit. And in terms of, you know, can your accountant help? I think the role that the accountants, you know, play, you know, Zets can play in this modern day life is actually to be that confident, to be that sounding board. But I think also importantly to connect people and, you know, put people together that they can see are having shared experiences. Again, I used that phrase I did earlier in our conversation. So use your accountant to help connect and support.
That's great. And while we were talking about kind of knowing what good looks like for yourself, I was thinking, well, that's something potentially that your accountant can help with, you know,
Definitely.
those numbers and, you know, all of that, being on top of all of that reporting. And
I think, you know, an accountant does have those conversations time and time again with different businesses, different business owners. They have a perspective on it. So use your accountant as that sounding board.
Fantastic. That's great.
Thank you for listening to the Evolve to Succeed podcast. My hope with every episode is that you've learned something new or heard something that challenged your way of thinking and further motivated you on your path towards becoming a more knowledgeable, informed and inspired individual and business leader. If you enjoyed this episode, then please help us by rating, reviewing and subscribing. We really value your feedback and would love to have you along for future episodes. And please don't forget to learn more about Evolve by going to evolvemembers.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.